This woman founded Motown's most successful female group. This singer isn't quite the La Supreme anymore. She was the inspiration for the plump, soulful Effie in the Broadway musical and subsequent movie Dreamgirls. This vocalist's life was one of achievement and sorrow, a life filled with admiration before being tragically cut short. The centerpiece of today's video is all about Florence Ballard. Before we start, let's be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and push the notification bell to be sure you won't miss on any more uploads. Now without further ado, let's cue that intro. Florence Glenda Ballard was born in Detroit, Michigan on June 30th, 1943 to Lurley Wilson and Jessie Ballard. She was either the 8th of 13 or the 9th of 15 children. Her mother was a resident of Rosetta, Mississippi. Her father was born Jesse Lambert in Bessemer, Alabama. After his grandmother was shot and passed, the Ballard family adopted him. Jesse Ballard left his adoptive parents at the age of 13 and quickly began an affair with Florence's mother, who was only 14 years old, in Rosetta. The Ballards relocated to Detroit in 1929 as part of the Great Migration. The Ballards relocated to Detroit in 1929 as part of the Great Migration. Her father worked for General Motors. Her brother Roy was unalived by a drunk driver when he was 3 years old, and her mother gave birth to twins who passed at 5 months and a daughter who perished in infancy. Florence's father, amateur musician, helped spark her passion in singing by teaching her songs and accompanying her on the guitar. Financial troubles drove the Ballard family to relocate to several Detroit areas. By the time Florence was 15, they had settled in Detroit's Brewster Douglass housing projects, and the following year her father passed away of cancer. Ballard, nicknamed Blondie and Flo by family and friends, attended Northeastern High School and was vocally coached by Abraham Silver. Ballard met future singing partner Mary Wilson during a middle school talent contest, and the two became friends while attending Northeastern High. Ballard longed to be a singer from a young age, so she decided to audition for a seat in the Primettes, a sister group to the Primes and local Detroit attraction managed by Milton Jenkins. After being approved, Ballard invited Mary Wilson to join Jenkins' group. Paul Williams of the Primes, who would eventually become the Temptations, enlisted another neighbor, Diana Ross, then known as Diane. Betty McGlown completed the initial group, which Jenkins dubbed the Primettes. Prior to auditioning for Motown Records in 1960, the group played at talent shows and school parties. Berry Gordy, the head of Motown, recommended the group to complete high school before auditioning again. Ballard finally dropped out of high school while her classmates graduated. In 1960, Ballard was allegedly held at knife point by local high school basketball star Reggie Hardin after leaving a sock hop at Detroit's Greystone Ballroom, where she had arrived with her brother but had lost sight of each other. The essay happened in an empty parking lot off Woodward Avenue. Ironically, Harding was charged with statutory R. He acknowledged to the conduct, claimed it was consensual, and was acquitted earlier that year prior to the event with Ballard. Following the event, Ballard isolated herself in her home and refused to go, which concerned her group mates. Weeks later, Ballard informed Wilson and Ross what had transpired, and both were sympathetic. Both Wilson and Florence's early boyfriend, Jesse Green, remembered her as a generally happy if somewhat mischievous and sassy teenager. Wilson feels that the episode contributed significantly to Ballard's self-destructive adult personality traits such as cynicism, pessimism, and dread and distrust of others, although the essay was never brought up again.
when Florence started having these problems, and it wasn't her fault, she was actually abused when we were in the Primettes. We had just started singing. I think we were like now by that maybe 13 or 14 years old, and Florence was abused by a neighborhood guy there, and it absolutely just took everything out of her. I mean, and Diana and I, first of all, didn't know what was going on because we didn't hear from her like for about 2 weeks. Well, that was odd because we were such good friends. And we're like, and then we would call over there, where her parents wouldn't let us talk to her or anything, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. So eventually, came over, and Florence came over to me and Diane, and she told us what had happened to her. Yeah. And we were all virgins, and for her to sit there and tell us what had happened to her almost was just too much to bear, you know. Sorry, and to see that something could happen to our friend, and you could see that she was no longer the girl that she was. She was like devoid of whoever she was.
Later in 1960, the Primettes acquired a contract with Lupine Records and released 2 tracks that did not play well. During that year, they continued to pursue a Motown deal and decided to do whatever was necessary, including adding hand claps and vocal backdrops. By the end of the year, Berry Gordy had agreed to let the group record songs in the studio. In early 1961, Gordy agreed to sign them if they changed their name. Janie Bradford contacted Ballard with a list of names to pick from, and Ballard chose Supremes. The other members were disappointed when they learned the new name. Diana Ross was concerned they might be mistaken for a male singing group, but Gordy decided to sign them under that name on January 15, 1961. In their early years with the label, the group struggled, recording 8 singles that failed to enter the Billboard Hot 100, earning them the epithet No-Hit Supremes. Ballard sung lead on the single. Buttered Popcorn was a regional hit in the Midwest but did not chart. In the early spring of 1962, while the Marvelettes were on tour, Ballard briefly replaced Wanda Young, who was on maternity leave. Barbara Martin, who had replaced Betty McGlown a year before they signed with Motown, left the group before the release of their debut album. Meet the Supremes in 1962, leaving the group a trio. Diana Ross took over as lead vocalist of the group after the smash single When the Love Light Starts Shining Through His Eyes in 1963. The group released Where Did Our Love Go in the spring of 1964, and it became their first #1 smash on the Billboard Hot 100, setting the way for 10 #1 songs for the next 3 years.
With our burning love, that stings like a bee.
Following several sessions with Collie Atkins and Maurice King, the group's live performances improved substantially. Ballard performed lead on numerous Supremes albums, including a rendition of Sam Cooke's Ain't That Good News. According to Mary Wilson, Ballard's voice was so loud that she had to stand 17 feet away from her microphone during recording sessions. Marvin Gaye, for whom Ballard sang background vocals on occasion, characterized her as a hell of a singer, probably the strongest of the 3 girls. Between 1963 and 1967, Ballard sang on 10 #1 pop successes and 16 top 40 hit singles. Ballard was dissatisfied with the group's direction during its flourishing period. She would also say that their schedule caused the group members to drift apart. Ballard accused Motown Records of ruining the group chemistry by making Diana Ross the star. Ballard resorted to alcohol for comfort as she struggled to cope with the demands of the label and her despair, resulting in fights with Ross and Wilson. Ballard's drunkenness caused her to skip shows and recording sessions. Gordy sometimes replaced Ballard on stage with the antics Marlene Barrow. In April 1967, Cindy Birdsong, a member of Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells, took over for Ballard. A month later, Ballard returned to the group after what she believed was a brief leave of absence. Gordy altered the group's name to Diana Ross and the Supremes. In June, as advertised on the Flamingo Hotel's marquee, Ballard seemed intoxicated during the group's third performance at the Flamingo on July 1st, the day after her 24th birthday, with her tummy bulging beneath her costume. Angered, Gordy ordered her to return to Detroit, and Birdsong formally replaced her, thereby terminating her time with the Supremes. Birdsong's contract with the Bluebells was bought out in May, and it was determined that he would replace Ballard. In August 1967, the Detroit Free Press reported that Ballard had taken a brief leave of absence from the group due to exhaustion. Ballard married her lover Thomas Chapman on February 29, 1968, and Ballard and Motown had negotiated her release from the label a week earlier on February 22nd. Her attorney got a one-time payment of $139,804.94 in royalties and profits from Motown. As part of the settlement, Ballard was told not to market herself using her prior Supremes membership. In March 1968, Ballard signed with ABC Records and issued 2 failed songs. Ballard performed Dionne Warwick's song, his Walk On By, in 1968. This was later featured in the Supreme Florence Ballard album, which was published following her death on April 2, 2001. After the label's album was canceled, her compensation money was drained by the Chapman's management firm. The agency was managed by Leonard Bond, the lawyer who assisted in Ballard's exit from Motown. After learning that Bond was facing several embezzlement accusations, Ballard fired him. She continues to perform as a soloist. Ballard sang at one of the inaugural balls for newly elected President Richard Nixon in January 1969. ABC dropped Ballard in 1970. Ballard sued Motown in July 1971, claiming she was entitled to further royalty payments, but Motown defeated her in court. Ballard and her spouse separated soon after due to personal issues, and Ballard's home was repossessed. Faced with poverty and sadness, Ballard developed an alcohol use disorder and avoided the spotlight. In 1972, she moved into her sister Maxine's home. Mary Wilson persuaded Ballard to perform onstage with the Supremes, who were then led by Cindy Birdsong and Sherry Payne, at Magic Mountain. Ballard played the tambourine but did not sing, telling Wilson she no longer wanted to sing. Later that year, knowledge of Ballard's welfare applications seeped out, and her story began to surface in newspapers. Around that time, Ballard checked into Henry Ford Hospital for rehabilitation. After 6 weeks of therapy, Ballard began to gradually heal. In early 1975, Ballard obtained a payment from her former attorney's insurance provider. The money helped her purchase a home on Shaftesbury Avenue. Inspired by her financial success, Ballard returned to singing and reconnected with her husband. On June 25, 1975, Ballard performed her first concert in almost 5 years at Detroit's Henry and Edsel Ford Auditorium. Ballard played as a member of the Joan Little Defense League, accompanied by the Deadly Nightshade, a female rock group. After that, she began receiving interview requests. Jet magazine was one of the first to cover Ballard's recuperation. Ballard went to Mount Carmel Mercy Hospital on February 21, 1976, with complaints of numbness in her extremities. She passed away the next morning at 10:05 a.m. from cardiac arrest caused by a coronary thrombosis, a blood clot in one of her coronary arteries. She was 32 years old.
Childhood friend and ex-Supreme Florence Ballard's life is crashing.
It was not easy because to see Diane moving on and to see Florence, her whole, not just her life, I mean her soul. Florence's soul was totally, it was tormented.
The drinking that forced Florence out of the group has only worsened, and after an abortive attempt at a solo career, she winds up on welfare. On February 22, 1976, the torment ends. Florence is found dead of a heart attack. A devastated Diana flies to Detroit to attend the funeral.
Just very sad, wishing that there was something that could have been done to make it not happen.
On June 30th, 2021, a headstone was put at her tomb to commemorate her birthday. Although she had a rudimentary gravestone since her burial, it wasn't until now that a proper memorial monument was dedicated to her memory. Ballard, a member of the Supremes, has been chosen one of 8 recipients to receive a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award at the 65th Grammy Awards in 2023. Now, before we go, I have a question for you all. What is your favorite song from the Supremes?